Hello, everyone, and welcome to the final of the Student Proving Grounds, brought to you by the UKEL and UKLC, and supported by the NUEL and NSE. A lot of acronyms there for this tournament. I am Viper, I am joined by Nymera, and we're going to be taking you through the finals of this tournament between the students from Barrage and London Esports.
Well, settle down, students. Class is in session for one final time for us and this crossover event of momentous occasion here between the UKEL and those student scene organisations, as you were talking about. We're left with two teams. We're left with the students from Barrage and from London Esports. They've had a bit of a rocky path to get here. They've not, both of them have lost at least one game. The semi-finals, though, were much more confident.
Absolutely, and it can be a case of these teams getting to know each other, playing together there, because it's players from all sorts of universities and all sorts of backgrounds. And yes, there are a couple of players from each of these teams that do play together in stuff like NUEL, like NSE, have had success there. But it's not built teams that have been playing together for months and months. They've been together for a couple of weeks, and maybe the group stages was just finding out exactly how they want to play, what roles people want to be taking in terms of the team composition. But now, as you say, going into the semi-finals, it was 2-0 sweeps both times, and our semi-final was, or our third, fourth place playoff was also a 2-0. But if you were watching it like I was, that second game was. Whew,
It was
a spicy one.
And I mean, I think that was a really good point to kind of hammer on that point you were talking about. These teams have not had that time to mesh, to kind of figure out their comfort roles within team compositions and the kind of the classes of champions that they really want to be using themselves. Particularly, I'm looking at Porp in that jungle for Resolve, who has been playing with Cabbage Family, who are current NSE champions, for like 3 years. He's been playing with them for absolutely forever. Gregors is also a part of that team, but Porp is this kind of player who suffered in the group stage and then turned it on for that third, fourth place match after they kind of ironed out some of those kinks. What I'm really looking for is if any of these other players on these teams can show us exactly the same and have that pop-off performance, because they want to show off. This is the place to strut yourself and, you know, get your name out there for those UKLC teams.
Yeah, get yourself noticed. Proving Grounds in the UK have a rich history of creating players and giving them the opportunity to shine. And with the UKEL coming back in the middle distance future for the summer split, and with teams looking for new talent to come in and fill out their roster, and we've seen players from those teams, a lot of players in the UKEL are looking for team or even considering retirement. There are bigger names that are not going to be with us in the summer split of the UKEL, so there's plenty of space for these new talent to come through, and there are 10 players that we're going to be keeping our eyes on going forward into this best of 3, and I think all of them have shown real potential. Some of them have been much more upfront and showing exactly how well they can pop off throughout this tournament. But there are some of the players who have been a little bit more quiet, but still very consistent, who I do want to be able to shine a light on going into this best of 3 final as well.
And the person I'd really pick out of you know the players that we've got between these two teams is Killy, the mid laner for London Esports, who's not necessarily been the person to, as you're saying, kind of pop off and have, you know, your Gregor's level of performances in very strong in lane, or Admowodo on the split pushes, on the strong early game champions. Killy has been more of the role player, allowing Crisis to have control in the early game and just playing safe on something like a Tristana, getting the early push, and then after that, making sure that they can't be exploited. That too is very valuable. Even if the camera's not panned over to them and they're big players all the way through the tournament, they have shown value. Thing is though, coming into these finals, do you really think those players are going to be satisfied with that? Because I know there's a bit of pride in there too. It is still a finals, you're playing to win. But this is the kind of match, the momentousness of that occasion, as we were talking about, which sometimes drives you to go that little extra further.
Yeah, you want to kind of show off what you can do in this final. And even though winning this tournament is super important for these players, and being the first victors of the Student Proving Grounds is a great accolade to add to your Leaguepedia, you know, put in those LFT graphics that you're going to be putting out tomorrow anyway, you want to be showing off what you can do as a player. And even the players in the third, fourth place, we watched those games, they can't win the tournament. They couldn't win the tournament. They had to come third or last. Nothing was left out on the Rift in those two games. Every single player.
That explains the Zac.
Well, I mean, okay, some stuff was left out on the Rift from certain players, but it's definitely a case of wanting to showcase exactly what you can do, the versatility, the variety. And speaking of variety, we've done a little bit of research on these two teams. We've watched how they played, and a very interesting statistics, Nymera, is between these two teams, they only share 2 champions from the pools of champions they picked in 10 games, well, 9 games of Student Proving Grounds so far.
Yeah, well, 9 unless you count the 10 where they're kind of both in the same game, so against each other. Yeah, so there is, of course, the Renekton and the Scion before the top laners. No one else shares a single champion, and this is also still Jojo, who is the mad scientist of this event here. He's the person who's going to pull out the weird stuff. We were saying at the end of our last broadcast, actually, in the semi-finals, like, okay, Jojo does have some interesting Gnar counters prepared, so, make like Jeremy Irons and be prepared for that one.
We're going to be jumping straight into picks and bans for the first game of this best-of-3 final. Barrage student over on the blue with a London esports student on the red. And, I mean, there's a rich history of mad scientist top laners in the UK. You kind of have to be a little bit inventive to succeed there. You look at the likes of, we've had Tolium up there, Noam Watley, Ego Speed, a lot of great inventive players who have dominated the role in this kind of level at the UK scene. So maybe Jojo can be that next generation. But Vladimir being banned away, we saw the Lilia, that's not the most unusual thing, but the Vladimir ban is definitely something that you picked up on when we were prepping for this.
Yes, because Necro is very good at it, and it scares me because I don't like playing against Vlad, because I'm a mid laner, and I don't like being outscaled, and then apparently on this patch getting out-traded and still not have a way to stop him from sustaining with that really low max rank Q cooldown. We're seeing some engage options being taken away from Easy Game GG as well, who has been one of the standout players of Preview Grounds as well. Between Necro and Easy Game GG, the game between these two teams within the group stage was really solved and sorted by these two. Huge team fight presence, scaling up with that engage coming out of an AZ Game GG to back up that said scaling from Necro was too much for London to really stand by. Now we have that Morg banned away as well. So a couple more tier list bans chucked in there.
Yeah, some very pretty standard stuff. You know what these champions can do. You've seen what they can do in the hands of players, and I'm thankful to see Morgana gone. Stop playing it in the jungle. I don't like it, personally. We're going to see what
Don't like it, I don't think it's good. That's the kicker.
Don't like it. The former, not the latter. I think it can be very scary, but in my elo, no one can hit the bind, so it just doesn't matter. But, speaking of hitting things, it's going to be the Tristana coming in. Could be mid, could be bot.
It can absolutely, and this is why this pick is so very strong. I think this is the correct first pick for almost every team out there. If your bot lane and your mid lane can both play it, it gives you either mid lane early priority or a strong 2v2, which then locks something like a support in lane so they can't roam around because that Tristana will kill their AD carry in that 1v1. Is one of Gregor's favorite champions too, although Gregor plays everything. I would expect a Varus coming in response at some point. Actually, an early pick, Syndra. That's not necessarily something which I had expected so far, but it is a strong priority pick for that mid lane into something like that Tristana, if they were going to chuck that up into that lane.
I do like the Syndra lock-in. It's one of the kind of more staple mid laners, gives a bit of utility, has a ton of damage if you can get going, and is just one of these safe options. It's kind of like the Orianna in that regard. And I mean, speaking of safer options, if you can stay safe in bot lane on this Jinx, Gregors is going to be able to pop off in the late game.
This is a bit of a flip-flop from both of these teams in terms of their styles they've shown so far. Gregors and Nibble have been playing a lot of poke. They did play a Sivir game, which is the crit Sivir, and I think they played one of their 4 Varus games was a crit Varus as well. But with the Jinx, you're going full on hyper carry. On the other side, bit of a more return to normality with the Jarvan for Sweet Summer Day. It doesn't farm as quickly as a lot of what Crisis has put in his champion pool so far, but it gives you that early game gank presence and the huge dive threat later.
I mean, Crisis will be forced onto something new in the jungle because the Udyr and the Lilia are the only 2 champions he has shown so far in this tournament. But I love the Jarvan being picked up. It gives so much aggressiveness early, and I'm going to assume that's a proxy pick. You can have a quick check on that. Rel. Okay, that does make quite a lot of sense coming through, and with the Tristana as well, having a decent disengage option can be quite nice with the versatility of also being able to dive in.
And we had 2 kind of meme notes on our prep doc we've got on the side here. One of them was ban Vladimir, and that's all I had in the description for Necro for a while, because I thought that's all you need, really, right? It's just that if there's anything you learn about this player, do not let him have Vladimir. We said exactly the same thing about Easy Game GG and Rel. Very, very good on this support champion, which has made supports look very good for this season. It is the montage play engaged support of Season 11, is going to be going up against the Alistar, and Nibble's Alistar is of similar fame, honestly. Looking through the Newell games, which I had a pleasure of casting this guy on in his first split, Nibble has been really, really strong.
Moving into the second round of bans, we've got the Kindred and the Orianna off the table. Interesting to see the Orianna banned away because it is the kind of standard pick into Syndra that we often see people going for. The Malzahar is still available for Necro, but as someone who's played a decent amount of that champion, doesn't love being into Syndra because it's so easy just to stun you up and take you down. So maybe they're picking it early and going, come on, we know what you like to play. playing.
The thing about Malzahar is that he just never gets to have a spell shield against a Syndra, and then on one long range CC lens, and you pretty much die. At least you have the spell shield, which does last long enough to outplay the Alistair Headbutt pull combo, unless you space it out correctly, which I suppose Nibble is probably thinking of if there was going to be locked in. Also going to be another preferential matchup into that Syndra band away in the Kassadin. Basically what Killy is looking for is something that he can push in early, so Crisis can have, again, a better matchup and a better way to deny this Jarvan if Jarvan is going for early ganks, so you can take away camps, but also have something you can kind of push around in middle late game and be a genuine damage threat against, because Syndra, if you don't have a lead against most kind of matchups and most team comps, you fall off very hard.
This is true, and something very interesting to note, because we discussed this just before going on air, is where are these two teams going to want to put their counter picks? Where are they going to want to give away? And we were saying that the mid and the bot lane were probably going to be those locations. Lee Sin has been locked in, which is a flex pick. It could go top, it could go jungle. We're not even sure where this is going to go, but Crisis, I'd be excited to see him picking this one up.
The fact this is a takeaway from JoJo, it just tickles me. It tickles me because, yes, we saw it from Porp in the jungle earlier today, but it is genuinely a really good solo lane pick right now. So holding that as a bit of an unorthodox flex pick for at least this season so far on the side of London, is going to be going up against Diana, looking like it's being locked into one of the solo lanes, and then that leaves one other lane to be picked. This could be a top lane AD carry of the Tristana or something locked in by EasyGo G&G right now. Oh wait, no, they got a support to pick. That's the other. Oh no, they already have the Rel.
They've got the Rel.
Okay, I'm saying, I'm like, wow, what's the Amumi?
There's
That's
some
be
flexibility here because the Tristana could be going mid.
Cool.
The Sarn is locked in, which will probably go top, meaning that it probably will be the Tristana down bot with the Rel, which does make some sense. I like that lane a lot. It's pretty safe, but has some versatility going in. And now it's going to be London Esports who get to have that counter pick in the top side into Sion. Renekton is available if they want to go that direction, but
and Renekton's not bad against Sion either, because you get that empowered W and you cut through Soul Furnace shield, so he doesn't get that extra trading ability. Camille's going to be the choice though. Admordo shown real strength, not just in lane, but into the mid and late game carry performances from stuff like the Renekton and the Camille. He's played a bit of Gnar, but particularly that Renekton and Camille have been the most dominant games, and we saw that in the semi-finals. Having that into the Sion, this will put some pressure onto JoJo, but JoJo has taken preferential trades and solo kills even in not so great matchups. He solo killed Hampot, who just finished third, of course, in that third place decider, who was playing that set into Sion. That's a matchup which has notoriously gone towards the set instead of the Sion. Didn't bother JoJo though, see if he can do the same into this Camille.
This is going to be a very, very exciting matchup across the board. The two team compositions are, both of these teams are still showing us something new. And I think there is it's pretty obvious that these teams did have comfort going into this tournament. There are champions that were picked over and over again. Like we said, Crisis only showing 2 champions so far. It's so easy to ban away, especially when Lilia and Udyr are both just good picks in the meta at the moment anyway. So forcing people onto new champions in the final, this is where team managers are going to sit there and go, okay, now we're interested. Now we can see, because we know Crisis can run the game on Lilia. We know Crisis can run the game on Udyr. Can Crisis do the same on Lee Sin, who is, as you say, a very popular champion right now? We'll have to wait and see.
Absolutely, because the thing about Crisis is that when he's been playing against junglers, particularly in that semi-finals, who go for the plays and try and, go for those more tricky ganks and waste a bit of time, invest more into their lanes, well, Crisis just run over the jungle, got level leads, got farm leads, and become a bit of a monster into the mid and late game, as either you were saying that Udyr or Lilia on this Lee Sin, though very different style of play. It's not one which London have shown on stage yet. Similarly, Gregis hasn't played the Jinx with this team yet either. It is a very different role to play within team composition. Still going to be a backline AD carry, though it's not like they've switched from a Kai'Sa over to this Jinx, which I guess would be a bit more different. But it does give a bit more scaling towards that bot side and the ability to crit through that front line. But it's still Jinx into Jarvan. It's still got to get out of that giant walled fortress he puts out around you.
That is true, and there are some tools that the team can use to keep Gregors alive on this Jinx. The Lee Sin kick, we might see it used a little bit more defensively than we're necessarily used to seeing. Syndra can scatter a week away from her team, so there are definitely options to keep Jinx up and critting, because she's going to be doing a ton of damage. Of course, Jinx, the only champion that was affected by the recent changes on this patch from the champions that we saw these two teams playing, and it was just a bug fix. It wasn't anything particularly exciting.
It's a bug fix nerf. It's about the Q.
Yeah, it's a little, but it's not particularly thrilling in terms of, oh no, the champion is dead, because she still does tons of damage. It just doesn't matter.
Anyway.
It is that. Jinx has always been a champion I love seeing, because when she's in the meta, it's just fun. You know that there's going to be a pop-off marksman, and the marksmen that you see picked into her are also pretty entertaining to watch. You talked about the Varus coming back into vogue a little bit. So much fun to watch. Tristana and Rel going into Jigs and Alistair, though. There's engaged, there's disengaged, there's late game damage. This bot lane has everything we could want from it.
Speaking of that, Jinx, I've got to go back to a bit of a personal anecdote because it would have been my first year in uni when I was first starting to play League as well, back in 2014. So I was a big Ahri player, of course, played a bit of Shyvana, but I played a load of Jinx back in that season too. What I would do is, well, hopefully what we'd not see in this game, I just played Jinx and just push up a side lane until I died. I was like, yes, I'm getting far. I'm doing damage, guys, and now I've got 2 items. I've got Infinity Edge and Static Shiv. That was the combo back then. But then I'd also be 0 and 8 because I didn't realize that AD carries were not meant to be alone, and split pushing as someone like Jinx is very bad. Speaking of side lanes in this game, though, which was, again, segueing on something a little bit more appropriate, the Diana will have the ability to just absolutely one-shot the Syndra after some point in the game. And that's going to be a real worry for London because you're basically banking on the Camille getting ahead of not just the Scion, but also the Diana too. And Syndra notoriously sucks at killing Scion because of that Soul Furnace and the amount of HP you get. Syndra needs to get a lead to be relevant in this game, and I don't think the same needs to be said of Diana. I think Diana will be doing more than enough against this mostly squishy team of London.
And there's something you said going into this game on our notes. You said Necro has been the player in the mid lane who has scaled and got to the late game better than any other mid laner so far. And they banned away stuff like the Casted the Orianna to prevent those champions getting into those later stages where one Orianna ultimate can end the game. Casting being level 16 can end the game. And Necro's like, well, you know, Diana's just going to have a good time. Your mid laner / your marksman, if you don't peel properly, isn't going to exist in the late game if I have anything to say about it. So there is a bit of a timer. And I mean, Jarvan, Tristana, Rel, Sion, these aren't champions that lose lane. They're going to be able to get around the map and have stuff going on as well. So I'm really impressed with what Barrage have put together here.
Yeah, and you know, you get to make some very topical memes as it is coming up to that time of the year as well, Star Wars week, because that's no Moon. It's a Wombo combo, except it is because Diana's in the team composition. They have good lanes, as you were saying. I think Sion can do okay against a Camille early. It's only really post. Well, it depends how the early ganks go and whether the Ignite's been taken from the Camille, but you're really expecting past the Triforce and the Tiamat stage is when Admirado will start doing more stuff in the side laning scenario, and less Jojo's already got a solo kill at that point. But like as you were saying, there's kill pressure across a lot of these lanes, from Barrage 2 down to Syndra, that definitely works, and Jarvan has that X factor of, I'm level 2 now, let's make something happen. So it will be a bit more of an evolution on what we've seen. I mean, I guess we saw a bit of Demise trying to do this as well when they tried to put together their Wombo combo with some better lanes. It didn't work against London in their semi-final, but Barrage, of course, made it through to that finals in that 2-0 fashion. Hopefully we don't see another one of those today. Hopefully we see things go a bit more even.
I want to see a 2-1. Simple as. I want to see both teams winning, because I want to see both of these teams thriving and the students being able to give as much time as possible to showcase themselves. Because of these 10, Gregors has kind of had the breakout into the UKLC promotion tournament. We talked about that at length in our kind of pre-show situation where I pretended to be Melvin for 3 hours. Jojo as well has played at this level before on the likes of Absolved. But there are 8 players in this lobby who I want to be able to see thrive and get in front of teams. Because you look at students who have come through it in the past, you look at likes of Kerberos, who's now off doing absolutely stunning things in the higher reaches of the game.
Evan.
Yeah, exactly. And even you look at London United, the other London team who have a team in the UKEL, they were 5 students who played together. And that team, they played together for a year. They were top half UKEL both seasons. They looked good, never could reach that final height, always kind of stumbled at the last hurdle. But there is history of students doing exceptionally well. And having tournaments like this, which gives them a platform to thrive, is going to be really, really great for them, hopefully, moving forward and finding themselves a spot to play on in next season. But let's have a little chat about what we think is going to happen in this game. Nymera, talk to me about the early game. Talk to me about what I need to be keeping my eyes on going into this one.
Well, there's a Jarvan, there's a Lee Sin. I'm sure you've seen that in plenty of your normal and regular solo queue games yourselves. There is just every chance they find their way past a ward, either with a flag and drag into the tri-brush that Jarvan can do, get behind a bot lane, get behind a top lane or whatever. Lee Sin can do the same with ward hops. I'm looking to see what both these junglers do in terms of their aggressive plays, because often Crisis has deferred to, oh, I'm going to take away a camp, I'm going to get far ahead in terms of my own individual lead, and then I'm going to use that to affect plays later on. I'm not sure you can afford to do that this game, though, because Barrage and Sweet Summer Day have been very effective at using that early pressure from the Java when they've played before. They played it twice, they've won twice with it. And they've done that with some different matchups, too, which they can play around. It's not necessarily about ganking winning matchups. They can even just take away some of that pressure from, say, this Camille, who has taken that Ignite. I think this early game is all about the junglers.
Welcome to Summoner's Rift, everybody. It's the final of the Student Proving Grounds. We've got Barrage on the blue side, London on the red side. It's good that they've colour coordinated with their team's colour scheme for this one. I know London is more of a black kind of logo, but black scheme, and red, you know, it's the scheme that I like from them. I love London Esports logo, you know. It's very pretty.
Got to say, wow, it's Demise on the red side. They're back because they match colours. No, sadly not. They were on 3 earlier today, but not to be in the finals this one. These are the two teams that have made it. And Will, I don't know, what have been your opinions of these two teams holistically, though? Because obviously I haven't actually cast Barrage yet. Cast London in the semi-finals. Do you have any particular thoughts about Barrage and how they've played as a team?
I've been impressed, honestly. I think it's very easy to watch this Barrage team and go, look, there's a lot of quality individually with these players. You've got like Jojo and you see like, haha, he's going to play the Quinn, he's going to play the Darius, he's going to run at you and have a really good time. But I've just been impressed with how consistently unified as a team they were. And with the Barrage team, they've lost one game this tournament, the same as London Esports. But just
I gotta just cut you off here because
that's not the right jungle camp to start Sweet Summer Day. That's not your jungle.
There's that, and these aren't the right lanes to be starting in. There was a Scion on blue side. There is a kill combo duo lane. That means we have ourselves a lane swap. I've had the pleasure of casting a couple of these over when I've cast the LJL, the Japanese Professional League. There are a couple of teams there which have pulled this out in very important games, and it completely screws over the enemy jungler and what they're supposed to be doing. Because you look at Jojo, he's going to take away, he's going to go execute himself to red buff. He's just done that. He's going to take the red buff cam. I think he can actually wander his way over to the Krugs too, but effectively at this point, he's going to have himself a buff. He's going to be level 2, he can teleport back to their wave clear better than most people in the game, and if you try and dive him, you've got to get past this passive as well. This is a very organised and orchestrated start from Barrage.
I mean, this is what I was saying. There's the opportunity for individual plays to be very fun and interesting from Barrage, but consistently as a unit, they're on the same page, and Australia lanes is definitely something to show in the finals of these Proving Grounds. We'll have to see how it pays off for them, and the setup has been very, very good for it.
You call that a lane? No, this is a lane. And I will not do that for the rest of the cast. I get one of those per cast.
I was sitting with, I think it was Jamada on broadcast, and he never heard the term Australia lanes. And
really?
it was the kind of thing where I was like, am I mad? Have I been using this term and no one else has?
It's the children who are wrong.
It was him that didn't know anything, but Necro diving in needs to be a little bit careful. Crisis is there, gets the slow onto the down, and the stunt as well. The weak have been put in their place, and it's going to be one kick for Lee Sin to pick up first blood.
Cool guys, don't look at explosions, nor do they have to follow the skill shots in this case. Crisis gets that first Q. Often, when you do a lane swap scenario, actually the mid lane is very, very isolated because it's about shielding your top laner on one side of the map. It's about trying to dive the other one. The mid lane kind of just doesn't fall into that equation. As we see, that means that Lee Sin is not going to be here to stop this eventual attempt onto Admirodo, who's going to have this wave crash into tower, but Crisis does get something in the mid lane as recompense.
Sweet Summer Day is looking towards the dive on the Camille. Admirodo on the Camille should be okay. Can look to get that cable shell away, but will be knocked up by the flag and drag, but there's no follow-up quickly from the bot lane of Barrage. They're just going to turn back towards this tower, grabbing themselves some tasty, tasty gold off those plates. But yeah, this is not what we were expecting from the early game from this game at all.
No, and I'd imagine it's not what London were expecting either. Why is this a problem for them, though? It's because Scion, in this kind of lane swap, has unfettered access to wave clear and use that W to soak up damage when he does go for it, and he's harder to dive than the Camille. Camille has to get out from under tower. Actually, Jojo, if he was going to get dived, he still has his passive. He still had himself a buff too, and he does have himself even those biscuits to keep himself topped up. Admirodo cannot outplay in the same way, and now Killy is getting exposed in the mid.
Yeah, gonna be in trouble. The flag drag hasn't even been used. It's been held for the flash, but a nice scan of the week sees the Syndra float away. Excellent play from Killy to survive, but in the bot lane, it's actually gonna be the top lane, of course, by a Chipmunk. Well-known top lane savant. Picks up the kill
in one of those
Rep.
lanes. In one of those lanes, this time it is the top lane, as you're right in saying. Admirodo goes down. The Camille has not had that same safety afforded to them as JoJo's Sign. One of the two champions which has been shared between both of these teams has come out huge in this early game. And this means that Adwodo, who has been so used to being lane dominant, to be that split push threat, is very far behind now, has died, is down in CS. And London will have to see how they try and get this player back into the game.
And of course, this does mean that Gregors and Nibble are having a fine time just farming up, getting that gold, and Jinx allows us to have a pretty safe bot lane because it's all about San just surviving under tower. But 8 farm on the Camille at the 6-minute mark is
sad.
It's not a fun time at all. Crisis is going to have a good time picking up the first dragon of the game. It's going to be Infernal with Ocean spawning onto the Rift. But this is a good chance for Amwodo to show that they can play under adversity, though, because they have got a long way to get back into this one.
Exactly, because we can already see the Barrage have been very collected, very organized, and they've orchestrated this lane swap very well. They've got themselves some plates on the top side. Now they've got their ill-gotten gains away from this early start of the game, and going back with an advantage into that bot side. I guess because of that first blood onto Crisis, it's not quite the early game they would have wanted, but particularly for this duo lane and for the San, they have themselves now some winning matchups due to the extra golden pocket.
And Gregors and Nibble meeting up with Biocheckmark and Easy Game GG for the first time this game, because both bot lanes have decided to go to the correct lane. Well done. Took you 6.5 minutes, but you got there in the end.
All I can imagine is just a League of Legends Satnav being recalculating. An Easy Game might want to recalculate this.
Trying to find his way out. Has to flash, but he's not going to be able to get away. Looking to dive back in, though. But there's just no support. Biocheckmark in 2 minds and decides to let Rel die. It will be Killy picking up for that one, but there was really no way out for Barrage's support.
They are coming. We have closed the gates, but we cannot get out. Easy Game GG forfeits their life to who else but the Syndra, the champion we said kinda needed that early lead with a kill and an assist and one of those fancy old gank escapes. Killy turning up pretty big to this game so far.
Absolutely, and for someone we said was very consistent, going about their business, being that kind of role player in this London team so far, has definitely come out swinging, proving that they have this kind of solo kill, solo damage, pop-off mentality. It shows another facet of their game.
That it does, and again, one of the things that you were saying, and rightfully so, is maybe this is a time for some of these players to show some diversity in their play style, show that they can play under adversity, play when they're not just ahead, but from behind as well. You need to be able to do a bit of both of them, particularly in the competitive scene, and Admodo just misjudges that hitbox and is feeling quite sad about proceedings.
Yeah, going to be going low, not going to have a fantastic time into the San. 30 farm down and forced under tower. San very, very good at getting involved as well, but it's going to be Crisis. Going to be the jungler on that side of the map. Going to have to defend this Camille pretty hard if Amwodo is going to have any kind of opportunity to take on the San in a 1v1 for a good amount of time.
And you're right. Often it is the jungler who needs to defend their top laner within these lane swap shenanigans situations. But the damage has already been done. Crisis used their time in the early game to try and play around their mid lane. And yes, they got that Syndra ahead, but it was at the cost of not being there to shield that Camille. Admodo now playing from quite a lot of CS down. Sweet Summer Day on, not quite on the board in the same way as Crisis though, but still, that top lane carry matchup which London have often deferred to carrying around, it's not really gone to plan this time.
But it's a sacrificial lamb situation because you look at the gold, it's a little bit in the lead for London. Jigs has got a farm lead. Syndra, as you say, was the one given that time and has got a kill, has got a farm lead, is looking pretty nice. So while Camille is sitting there going, I wish I was having fun like you guys. Actually, we're going to see the Fight King of Achilles not having much fun at all. Caught in the Cataclysm. I'm going to be taken down by Necro, who dives on in, fighting against Crisis. Gets the kill. It could be a double for the Lee Sin. The Blind Monk grabs 2 and dives back towards the mid lane.
Not just a crisis in the jungle, it's a crisis across the whole map for Barrage as they let the player with the namesake kick up another 2 kills. Fighting in the bot lane as well now.
Chipmunk putting out damage, needs to avoid the Trombers, will get rooted up, will get exhausted and has to back away. Easy Game GG. Gonna be able to ride off into the sunset alongside the sport. No one goes down, but Nibble not looking too healthy.
Not looking too healthy, but does look alive for now. Maybe not for much longer.
Brave jumping from Biocheckmark gets the damage on the Gregors, but Nibble too far back. The Alistair will be able to survive once again, but the aggression is being shown all over the place right now.
Close run stuff. But remember, when you get to lower HPs and stuff, you got to worry about that Jinx rocket. You got to worry about the turnaround from this duo. You can get punted out of your jump as well with a well-timed headbutt pulverized combo. So this 2v2, which we have set up in a little bit in advance, is going all over the place. Jojo in the top lane getting ganked.
Caught in the ultimatum, Crisis is there. It is a 2v2 and Sweet Summer Day dives on in, gets the knockout onto Lee Sin. Amwerda goes so low and will be taken out as Sweet Summer Day chasing on. The passive will be popped as Crisis picks up the kill, dives away onto a red ward. Jojo looking to chase on, won't be able to do so. Sweet Summer Day full health, but not looking like he wants to dive onto a double buff Lee Sin. There's a 1-4 trade in the top side.
Can I just say, I'm so glad we haven't got ourselves chem tank junglers duking it out. I'm glad that both of these two have had a chance to really strut their stuff. Nibble charging up the Hex Splash, actually not choosing to just yet. Sees maybe an angle into this mid lane, and the Unleashed Power coming in a couple of seconds.
Necro not going to be caught up by this one and moved back, maybe smelled something was a little bit strange over on the Raptors. Rel going to be able to Hex Splash over the wall to get involved as well. Looks like actually they want to get an aggressive play going forward, but East Game GG going to be denied so easily. Very, very obvious engage play. No follow-up and resources burnt.
Scattered by the scatter of the week. Killy showing their discipline to hold on to that skill, which is so often used in aggressive trades. Just make sure that they can still stay in lane and stave off some of those more aggressive attempts. Easy game GG, doesn't quite find the angle they want to. They don't have the ultimate now, and this might signal another play coming in from London. Not following the Sonic Wave, though.
No, not going to follow up onto that one. Diving into the enemy team on your own is sometimes good, sometimes bad. In this case, Crisis decided against doing so, but we're just watching the top lane. Amwerda, buddy, it's not a good time, I understand, but don't try to go toe-to-toe with Jojo right now because it's just not going to work out.
No, it's not, because he has the win lane item of the Bramble Vest, has the Barmy Cinder built up to. He has himself a 20 CS lead, and the Ignite was used last time by Amwerda, so he doesn't even have the summoner advantage. Nibble going to the bot lane.
Oh, the jump away from the Tristana by Chipmunk trying to get the damage down. Crisis here, it's a 3v2, Ease Game GG. Could look to turn this one around though, a Sweet Summer Day is marauding up, won't be able to find an engage as he's spotted out on a ward. But at the end of the day, that is enough to dissuade any kind of further engagement. Barrage surviving the bot side for now.
Or is it?
Well, these are the questions. Will Nibble look for a re-engage? What's Crisis got in his locker? Obviously, Greg is not going to be likely to be the one engaging, but Sweet Summer Day hanging around. There's a fight brewing, but neither team wants to pull the trigger just yet.
Crisis wants to use this individual lead. I don't know. Oh, they're going straight for the combo.
Very brave, going immediately onto Barrage. He's going to take a decent amount of damage, just get exhausted down. It's actually going to be the Rel who's targeted up. He's going to go down, but the Super Mega Death Rocket goes wide over the corpse. Sweet Summer Day too slow to react.
Crisis does go for the kick onto Bio Chipmunk and gets stunned halfway through it by the Attract Repel stun from the Rel, but it does disengage Bio Chipmunk. Sweet Summer Day, though, maybe looking to pick up some pieces here.
Yeah, Nibble is pretty low, half health under tower, gets the knock up onto the Alistair, but that is the only target. There's one more plate standing, but the catapult is being used. Nibble will be able to run away. The bomb is rolling, but it will not be enough. Lee Sin diving back in, looking for the damage. Will be able to find it onto Tristana, and survives with the shield out as well. The perfect crime coming through from London as they pick up another couple kills.
And they managed to run away with it. A drive-by killing in the bot lane. Crisis 6-0-1. We'd seen this player play the chem tank jungler of the Udyr, play the farming jungler of the Lilia, not necessarily play the early ganker and skirmish of this Lee Sin, but you know what? This team looks very happy to have their jungler on it.
100% kill participation at the 13-minute mark with 7 kills on the map. Definitely nothing to be too upset about if you're a London fan. Picking up the blue buff, picking up the damage, and the gold leaders looking very, very healthy. 3k in their pockets. And Jojo, we talked about having 20 farm up on Amwerda, but it used to be a hell of a lot more.
It used to be, and they're not really gaining anything more, right? It's stable at this point. And yes, you'd probably say staying stable as the Sign versus the Camille is preferable to Barrage, but is it a win condition? Honestly, when you've got this Lee Sin making plays across the rest of the map, meaning that, you know, someone like your Diana is not going to be quite as strong as they would like to be for the, you know, the third dragon into Herald, second Herald fight kind of power spike. And Barrage will now have to try and bide their time and find some more individual advantages and try and find that big team fight that their team comp is based around.
And they need to be doing so before champions on the other side get too out of control. Team fighting is really, really nice, but if the Jinx is going to be very, very strong, you don't want to be running into a hail of bullets to try and get that engage off. So they're on a little bit of a timer right now, I would say, but things haven't got out of their control just yet, and they do have tools in their own right.
Yeah, they do. And you still have really heavy dive, really heavy wombo combo. You have both teams do have that reset AD carry, either with a W from the Tristana or the Get Excited on the passive for the Jinx. So the first kill in each fight is going to carry more value, even more so than usual. My problem with that now for Barrage is that your jungler, this engager of Sweet Summer Day, is down levels on Crisis, and if you're going into that Syndra, into the Rocket even from Jinx, things are going to be a bit awkward. Looking to get a couple more bits of gold into their pocket, though, looking maybe to dive top lane.
Yeah, Sweet Summer Day is there, but Crisis coming in as well, so it will be a 2v2 and under tower. That's not going to be amazing. Nice Hexagonal to keep everyone in place. Amwodo slides on out, but will burn down and will be taken out. Damage coming down onto the Sam, but the teleport coming through from Killy. Won't be able to scatter the weak this time around. Sweet Summer Day drags himself away, but is a little bit too slow. Does get caught up. It's another double for Lee Sin, keeping that 100% KP and picking up his 8th kill of the game.
This is absurd. He just reads the Barrage top duo like a book. He doesn't have nearly enough pages in it either, and now he's going into mid, picking up Necro.
Yeah, picking up the epilogue as well. Dives over, forces the flash, and gets the kill regardless. In the bot side, Greg is looking to get the damage down. Nibble actually picks up the first kill that Lee Sin wasn't invited to, and Rel's going to get the last tap down. Double kill for the Alistair, trying to do a Crisis cosplay, and will pick up the ace doing so.
I might have myself a gaming PC, but does it run Crisis if he's doing this well? Not sure it does. That epilogue probably just has a couple of words amounting to the fact that, yes, they also died, these other people that were on the Rift somewhere. The duo lane 2v2 does at least net 1 kill over to the side of the Barrage bot lane, but this is getting well and truly out of hand. 2 turrets fall across the map. London in direct control of this first game.
Absolutely, and it seems to be getting further and further away from Barrage, as you said. It's going to be difficult for them to come back into this one. Yes, they have that wombo combo. Yes, they have that dive, but do they have a 9-kill Lee Sin?
No. No, they don't. Barrage don't. And they have a jungler which is trying to build similarly, going towards the Gorge Rink or into something like the Starix for survivability. Survivability is going to be very hard to come by for Sweet Summer Day. What you're really looking for now is to burn flashes and return for a big Diana wombo combo alongside that. That is your win condition. And I think actually, with champions like your Tristana and Rel helping out alongside that, there's never a point where the game is completely out of sight. You need to be controlling your vision control, and that's something which Nibble has often been winning for his team as well. Barrage, if they land all of these key ultimates, all of these key AoE abilities, they probably have a way into this game, but it's getting harder and harder to come by.
It's more and more difficult to see them, even if they hit that perfect combo, having a positive impact from the team fight that will come after it. But game is definitely not away from them just yet. So keep your eyes peeled around these objectives where we might see the scraps continuing. You can see they're starting up the second Rift Herald. Not the most important objective, but neither team really wants to let it go for free. Sweet Summer Day gonna be backing away from Crisis. Doesn't want to get involved with this level 12 Lee Sin. A 2-level lead on his jungle opponent is it's not a good feeling.
It's not, and the fact that there are so many random wards just littered around, it's kind of like the Blue Peter experience for Lee Sin. It's like, here's one I prepared earlier. We just ward hopped to something we just didn't expect to be there. Landing that Q and seeing that Sweet Summer Day was going back towards another one of those wards, I sat there like, this could be a bit awkward. Doesn't pull the trigger quite yet on that one, though. Is going to net another Herald over to the side of London. Actually, I can't remember who took that first one. London's certainly taking that second one, though. London. They have themselves... Okay, so it is the second one of the game. Dominant across all of their neutral objectives, apart from that one Ocean Dragon. Is a Mountain Rift, and speaking of them, they do have those 2 dragons towards their names. So they're ahead in that metric, too. Seems like London, they're looking to just snowball this game completely out of sight.
Yeah, taking down this mid tower will help them open up the map, get them into these objective places a little bit earlier, and remove the safety that Barrage gain from having that forward outpost. The engage could be coming in on the side. Sweet Summer Day in a bit of trouble. Caught in the ultimatum, can't flag and drag away, and it's going to be the bomb from Jinx from downtown that picks up the kill. London might look to force this one through, grabbing themselves the second tower, but don't want to try and grab the fight 4v5, and will be forced to move away.
Sweet Summer Day reaching out towards that Demacian standard, but is denied passage by the Hextech ultimatum. Admodo fell down in the early game, but again, it hasn't led to anything more, has been stable. This is kind of what happened in their first round matchup as well, in terms of Admodo falling down early. At that time it was a solo kill, this time it was the lane swap, but then at least managing to keep on in this game, not capitulating anymore. managing to outplay that dive alongside Crisis, has kept his team in the game on the top side of the map, as well as this mid-jungle duo.
I mean, massive props have to be given over to Admiral Odo. The resilience on this man cannot be overstated. This game had the most torrid early game that we've maybe seen in this tournament from any player, and very, very little on his own shoulders in terms of how the game played out. Yes, there was maybe one mistake that led to the death, but past that, it was just a very bad situation. But has come back into this one and is still trying to impact teamfights, is looking for those picks, and actually was the one who engaged and got that nice Hextech ultimatum to pick London up the kill.
Have new items to talk about coming in. It's actually the Ruinance Hurricane coming in from Greg. Is not feeling like they even need to go towards something like the Phantom Dancer. They feel safe enough to say, you're going to be clumped. I'm going to get the Ruinance crits coming in from these Jinx Qs, and you're going to have a really bad time of it. Not even needing to go towards the higher single target damage and play for the pop-off with the passive. Just going for the straight, more upfront AoE damage.
And I mean, Greg is feeling very, very comfortable in this game right now because
He is,
he's sitting there going, hey, you're going to want to be focusing me, but as soon as you do that, Crisis is going to kill your backline, so have fun with that one. So able to go for something a little bit less defensive, a little bit more, your whole team is going to feel the pain. And London feeling very, very confident in this matchup at this moment in time. And I mean, with a 7,500 goal lead at the 21-minute mark, you'd feel pretty confident if you were them too.
I was about to say, it's kind of earned at this point, right? It's not hubris to just sat there saying, yeah, we need to play to close out this game. Do have an exhaust on Gregis too, which means the 1 and 3 Diana is going to have a hard time completely one-shotting the Gregis, even with that level 2 ultimate. Question is if you can overlap enough AoE damage. Oh, Crisis going in!
Lee Sin going for the assassination, but can't take down by Chipmunk. It's going to be forced to back away. A lot of damage coming through from Nibble, who keeps the fight locked up. Lee Sin has dove back in, but this fight is getting very, very messy. Nice amounts of CC coming on through. Greg is putting out the damage, but it is actually Barrage who seems to be doing better. Ambueno diving onto the backline, getting that ultimatum. The statue in the middle is going to be taken down. Double kill for Gregis, who's kept himself alive so long. Ambueno's trying to keep him alive for a couple of seconds longer. It only takes one more bullet for the triple kill to come through for Greg as they clean up the Barrage team fight, and that was maybe the perfect situation for the blue team, but it's still London who pick up the win in the objective.
Godlike kiting from Gregis gets out of that crazy engage from the Rel. I thought the fight was over, and if Jinx was caught in that Rel combo, it pretty much was, because Crisis gets shut down early. Killy doesn't have the damage really to cut through something like this Sign. You need Gregis to do that, but Gregis gets out of the initial fight, and you know that Ruinance they just picked up, it does huge work around the dragon.
And again, Admiral last man standing, keeping Jinx alive where Alistair was off trying to CC, keeping members at bay on the side. And as you mentioned, Barrage, this is what they wanted to do. And you can see how much work their teamfight competition could do if they weren't this behind, or how much it could do if they caught the Jinx in it. But neither of those things came to pass, and yes, it was a good team fight for them, but they still lose 5 members and only take down 2.
And honestly, this only gets worse from here, because there is a certain point where Jinx just carries on their own. Getting that last Whisper in inventory, building up towards that Lord Dominic's Regards, that is a huge breakpoint when you are trying to damage people like this Sion. Built even against the HP stackers of your Rel and your Jarvan as well, the Jinx is going to do very optimal damage. And at that point, I'm looking at Killian saying, if you just, like, you know, do your Q, R, and then E through, so you get that multi-ball stun, which, again, disengages most of the team, if you just do that, doesn't even matter about the damage you do, that CC is more than enough to put your team in a winning position, because Gregis is so far ahead.
And, I mean, the utility coming through from the Everfrost as well is going to give another option to throw down CC. And Killy, we know, is a player who can kind of be that team player, can play the champion, and we said in the beginning of the game, Sin just picked up an early kill and an early assist. Maybe this is going to be the game where we see London Esports do something a little bit different with their mid laner, but it turns out that they need them in the exact same position we've seen them so many times this tournament already, playing that utility, being the rock solid defender in the middle of the team fight. And yeah, last time getting caught out by all that CC is unfortunate, didn't really get that much going on, but at the end of the day the objective was achieved.
Sweet summer day at Easy Game GG. They are playing with fire here. Nibble not quite able to get the headbutt. Polv queues up the headbutt. Doesn't quite manage to get it in time, though. Doesn't get in range of it, rather, so the Polv kind of happens in thin air. Killing now going towards that top side. Let's see if Necro can get that 1v1 attempt there. Looking for the angle.
Might be able to get on to Killy, but a nice Scare of the Week stuns up Sweet Summer Day, forces him to back off, and Now you can see Baron has been started up by London Esports. They want to be securing this one as quickly as possible, and with Gregors there, it's going to melt through. But members of Barrage don't want to give this one up for free. Jojo on the bot side does have teleport. Going to be using it now to get himself in line for a huge charge. Flash forward from the rail, catching out only Killy though, and he's not the priority target. Gregors standing back, actually only from one auto attack so far this fight, throws out the damage and having to call out a little bit. Look at the damage going on to Diggs, but Gregors is still alive, looking to melt through, looking to win. The team fight is still going. Jojo takes him down eventually, but with the Psalm being the only one remaining, and with Crisis still being here, it's going to be another ace going over to London Esports. Barrage, again, the fight looked okay initially, but there's just too much damage coming out of the red team.
Again, it's heartbreak for Barrage, because that is the fight they're looking for. It works if you're not 10,000 gold down, and against this Lee Sin, who again with the Conqueror stacker between him and the Camille, has that extended damage to threaten the likes of the Diana, of the Triss. That Diana got a 3 to 4 man ultimate. I think it was actually just the 3, and that included the Jinx, but doesn't have enough damage to one-shot the Jinx, who gets out another 3, 4 autos. That damage is more than enough. They actually, London, are going to wait for their respawns to get a 5-man Baron. Their mid and AD carry have already reset because, of course, they died and they're coming back from base. They're going to come back out onto the map. They're going to look out to close this game.
And okay, let's take it down, but they must be saying that, Barrage must be saying they're like, what can we do that is enough for you? Last time, down at the Dragon, they forced the fight, they got a massive engage, it looked so clean, but they didn't get the Jinx. You said, get the Jinx, then we'll talk. They dive in, they catch the Jinx in multiple ultimate CC sources, and then Crisis kills their entire team and ends up winning the fight, taking the Baron on the back as well. And what can they do? Because now it's a case of you have to catch the Lee Sin and the Jinx and all that CC, because spoiler alert, those two champions are probably not going to be standing on top of each other.
Sadly, I mean, in this last fight, it was Killy playing bait, just sat there saying, yeah, I'll take the initial CC, Rel goes on top of them, and then Crisis and Gregors are free to maneuver how they really wish after that point. Crisis, as you're saying, does have that. She has 3 items at this set time, for God's sake. He does have the damage. Lots of AD, for even from stuff like the GA. You're really looking now on the side of Barrage to stop preying on mistakes, but it's so hard to do that when you're being deprived of vision, being deprived of pressure. Admirodo has a lead now on that top side of the map, taking down turrets. Killy on the bottom side. Maybe they can find Nibble out in the middle of nowhere.
There's a teleport on the Camille, who might want to get involved with the team, but with that Baron buff
can't even
up,
do that.
want to just get the damage onto these towers, grab themselves the first inhibitor of the game. And yes, the Dragon's up, and it is Barrage who have priority over it, but Mountain Soul isn't going to save your team. They will be able to deny it, but Crisis just going to get a little bit of damage on to Jojo. Can the port speed stop Nibble? Certainly trying to do just that as Admirodo taking the first inhibitor of the game. Gregors has shown up, and he's going to be able to melt through. And the rest of the team, London, do not want to let them get back to their base. They're just stopping them from defending their objectives, and so much damage going in onto Necro. He has to go gold, and the Mega Death Rocket from the wrong side, putting in the damage. So much is going through. Nibble actually picking up the first kill of the team fight. Killy going to be able to survive for such a long time with all of that CC. The utility just used defensively as Gregors has now dove into the fight. Does need to be careful. Flash out the other side, getting the damage down on to the rail. Won't be caught out by the CC and picks up yet another kill. Lee Sin and Jinx clean up the fight. The base is crumbling. The minions are doing work already. And with Baron buff, this should be the end. Jojo's standing tall for a second longer, but another ace means it's going to be a win. The first one of this series, and it goes to London Esports students.
Coming into these finals ready to play. I mean, I was talking to Jojo before this series and said, yeah, I mean, it's going to be a really fun series, got a lot of stuff prepped, and they did come out with that lane swap. I found that great to see, but they ran into a bit of a breaking point, and that breaking point was called Crisis. He came through and shattered that early game, made sure that multiple players were picked out of position when they weren't quite in the right place, and that meant that Barrage didn't really get all of those advantages they wanted across the board. They fell down in the early game, and things got worse from there.
Absolutely, and Crisis was such an important member of that London Esports team, and basically Crisis were like, do you know what we're going to do? They've pulled out some cheese. They've pulled out something a little bit weird. Our top laner is behind. I'm just going to carry us for 15 minutes, and I'm going to high-five with Gregors on the way out, and he's going to do the next 10. And that is exactly what happened. Gregors in those team fights was almost foot perfect. The only time he went down in a team fight was when he was piled on with multiple ultimate CCs. That means that the other team was ignoring the 12 kill Lee Sin or whatever it was. So
exactly.
London Esports looked exceptionally good. Barrage, the team fighting was good. They were getting everything they needed to do in theory, but they were just so far behind by the time that they got to that point in the game. It just didn't matter.
No, it didn't. And I think the thing for me is that again, really want to praise both Gregors and Nibble, because Nibble was, at the same time that Gregors was forcing people to overextend to try and get on top of him, and he was still getting auto attacks down, but like if Jarvan is going flash, flat, like the flash, flag, drag, ultimate kind of combos on top of him, and Diana was having to go very deep too. Nibble was similarly doing something to the enemy backline, just saying, haha, you can't follow up this. Tristana is never going to get towards the Jinx as well, which bought time for Jinx to get 3 or 4 more autos, for the Lee Sin, again, to start wreaking havoc as well. As a team, this was a squad on the side of London where we didn't think they had it all together in the team fighting in the group stage. It is absolutely here in the finals, though. They've evolved, they've upgraded, and they're looking strong.
You can tell the quality of both of these sides, which is always, that's kind of what we wanted to see here. We're not looking for one team or the other to necessarily win out the entire tournament, but we're seeing quality coming through from these students. And I think all 10 players showed at least something positive in that one. And as units, we had 2 team fighting compositions that, for London Esports, did everything they needed to do. For Barrage, did everything they needed to do, except for not being 10k goal behind.
Yes, Barrage are an incredible team. They just need to work on early kills, gold management, and gold. Yeah, no, I mean,
Not
this
feeding
was
the
a game
Lee Sin,
Yeah, there was. I liked their composition. I liked their early game plan. Sometimes you just get outplayed.
It can be that simple, and when you're coming up against Crisis in this kind of form, then it's kind of, well, GG, go next. And we're going to jump to a short break, but when we come back, we will be going to the next game in this series. Can Barrage even things up and take us to a free gamer, or will London Esports tie up the championship right here? Don't go anywhere. We'll find out in a few minutes. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Student Proving Grounds. I'm still Viper, still joined by Nymera, and we're going to be jumping into our second game of the evening and the second game of this best of three. London Esports with a dominant, I think we can say dominant performance in game number one, grab themselves the win.
I think you can, because there were about 5 minutes where I thought, wow, Barrage look really far ahead in terms of the strategy they've pulled out. I love seeing lane swaps. Like I said, I've cast a couple of them. And when you have the ability to push in, take turret plates, force dives, and then also have that Scion outperforming the enemy top laner in terms of farm and the amount of wave clear they can provide on the other side of the map, I was thinking, yeah, they've really got this. And then Crisis happened. And then the game kind of flipped around, and the early game advantages that Barrage really wanted were evened up in quite explosive fashion.
Absolutely, and this is the thing, we were talking about this in the break, and we were saying London Esports obviously looked really, really great. Individual stand-up performances, Gregors, Crisis, Abawodo, kind of were the players that we were looking at in this tournament going, damn, these players have been so exceptionally strong. And Abawodo had a quiet game for a couple of reasons because of the whole early game, Camille doesn't get to play League of Legends right now, but the way that Gregors was playing those late game team fights, the way Crisis played the first 15 minutes and ran the entire show, it's definitely a conversation for player of the tournament caliber going forward. But for Barrage, it wasn't a case of, wow, they've been completely outclassed. It was just a case of needing to do a couple of things slightly better.
The way that I put it, again, while we were just in break, is that they were like 90% of the way there. I love their overarching strategy. They had the picks to make it work, and they were against picks which they could hold down effectively, like that Camille, who'd taken the Ignite. That was just the extra cherry on top. You knew that you could get ahead within your duo lane, within that 1v1 top lane as well, but they didn't quite communicate where they were at risk when they were attempting to do things. They didn't quite get a hold of the vision game at the same time. And 90% of the way there, then again, this squad has not been together nearly long enough to try and push towards, that 95+% on that kind of same metric too. They do have another lifeline left in the pocket though, one more loss, and they are out there.
Yeah, this could be the deciding game if London Esports do pick up the win there on blue side as we jump into picks and bans, and good to see that they've remembered to ban away that Vladimir.
Yes, still not going to be letting that one through. Sorry, Necro. Not possible. Easy Game GG also being denied one of the premier engaged champions of the day too, with Leona. The Rel was threatening at points, had some almost team fight turning engages, but it was just at the point where they were a little too far behind, and Gregors was a little too perfectly positioned. One step ahead of the bread line, or one swing ahead of the sword, managed to keep himself alive and kicking, and with the items he picked up too, with that Runaan's Hurricane over the Phantom Dancer, just AoEing the heck out of those, those mid-game team fights. Gregors was just imperious in the last game.
And I mean, Killy and Nibble as well had a lot to say about who was being given access to their backline, especially Killy on that utility star Syndra was getting those Evfrosts out, was scattering the weak all over the shop and not doing the massive damage this champion sometimes does, but throwing out so much utility and allowing the rest of the team to be really effective.
Okay, so we've been through these rounds of bans, and it is going to be London on the blue side, as you will have spotted. Tristana not available for first pick now. What is this first pick priority? Is it going to be something like the Varus? Is it going to be something a little more like that power pick for the bot side? Who are they trusting again with their draft priorities?
I mean, there's a couple of champions that are available. You've got stuff like the Udyr that we haven't seen so far because it was banned away last game, struck through this time around. I've got a little bit of a freeze on my end.
So do I. I can see I can see us moving, so I assume it's not on. There we go.
Oh, look, Udyr was picked. I'm a genius, right?
And so it was prophesized. The great prophet Viperoon did predict the B1 Udyr, and Jambo was very happy.
Stunning. He knows exactly what's up. And Kai'Sa going to be locked in for Barrage. Again, not too surprising. Was an option last time around, but by Chipmunk decided to go for the Tristana. But
Tristana's too much of a powerful pick. You can't ignore it. I don't blame them for that. However, the other pick, which they have been picking a bit, is this Kai'Sa, like you were saying.
Absolutely. And the Rel is game GG. Very, very good on this champ. You said that there were a lot of almost clutch engages. There were, but there were also a couple of times where it was the Rel trying to engage mid with the Flash Ultimate, where it was just scattered away. And I think if you're giving opportunities for London to disengage, then the pick wasn't necessarily the imperious, oh dear lord, we've lost the game thing that we maybe expected it to be.
No, and I do think a lot of that was on Killy, on the Syndra. playing a bit fast and loose with their positioning, putting themselves into positions where things could maybe not go so well, and then just outplaying with the Scout of the Week. I think that Killy had one of their better games of the tournament just then. The KDA might not reflect that, but the fact that so much was burned onto this Syndra, actually that Scout of the Week then stopped a lot of that following through, and even then, the amount of cooldowns you had to use to pick off that Syndra were cooldowns you then no longer had available to hold in place someone like this very fed Lee Sin, or get towards the backline of that Jinx, which has been locked in alongside the Thresh. This is the Season 4 bot lane we have seen for such a long time since. It enables that Jinx, and Gragas didn't really need any help last game with that, huh?
Yeah, we talked a lot in the past season, or past 5-6 months, about the Aphelios and the Thresh as a combination, because Aphelios can still do tons of damage, but really needs that safety. It's kind of a similar but muted story for Jinx. She can do a lot alongside other supports as well, but being given that added safety of that Lantern with all of that engage coming through as well from the Descendants, it's going to be a very good time for London in the bot side, but Twisted Fate might want to be going towards that bot side and getting some work done himself.
Bad to say, this is a paradigm shift once more. We saw that with Crisis, moving away from the farming junglers on towards the Lee Sin. Now they've gone back towards it, and Necro said, no, now is my time. Pick a card, any card. Joke's on you, this card is a tarot card, and it is death. That's what they're aiming towards in one of these different lanes. The question is, are you planning for something like a Renekton Nidalee topside to really angle in on that side of things too? Maybe going towards a... okay, the Lee Sin's not going to be there for Jojo in that top side, but are you going to go towards a kill matchup towards that top side too, to give you more options for TF and make sure he's less telegraphed in this game?
These are the questions, or is it just going to be a case of going bot, Rel can engage, Kai'Sa can follow up at level 6 very, very easily, and it's going to be a bad time for Jinx and Thresh, especially if you can catch out this less than mobile ADC a little bit overextended without the Lantern being available. Again, Syndra and Orianna are going to be taken off the table, no orbs in our mid lane, but a couple of decent options. I mean, Killy on the Kassadin, I'd love to see that.
There's a chance. Actually does pretty okay into something like the TF. I mean, the problem with TF is that he does build Everfrost, so gold card into Everfrost means that you're pinned in place for forever. In fact, I've obviously been checking in on some of the MSI solo queue accounts, and again, the team which I follow is the Japanese team, DFM. I saw their mid laner Arya beating Showmaker in the TF versus Kassadin matchup, so that's +1 to him, by the way. Down 1 and not winning MSI, I'm telling you that right now. Okay. But yeah, there are definitely answers in towards the TF, but the Kassadin can struggle in that early game. Question is, what is going to be that response? Sejuani locked in. I'm not seeing any boops in our production chat. I'm assuming that is a true Sejuani. We got ourselves a tank jungler.
Big if true coming through from Sweet Summer Day. As you say, a lot of tankiness, a lot of CC being given, and you talked about if they want to give something aggressive. Sejuani does like to bust it up early. With the stuns coming through from Twisted Fate, they're going to be able to hold people in place forever, and the Echo is going to be the response.
I love the fact that Killy just has this endless champion pool of stuff that you just hadn't quite considered. The Echo slotting in once again can threaten something like a TF, because he doesn't have a dash to get out of that parallel convergence. If you see him use that pick a card and come out of Fog of War, if you then E forward and then use the Proto Belt for the extra move speed, you can close down and get that stun really easily onto that card slinging mage.
Going to be the counter pick in the top side once again from Barrage. What will Jojo go? The Sana has been the pickup at the moment. Renekton again, still available. Could be the option. The Camille, the reverse of the matchup, could be the case as well. But it looks like Jojo is going to want to be showing off his 1v1 chops. Hovering a lot of different options. Some of them weren't top laners, but the Darius certainly is.
It is. So we've seen this one time before. I was half wondering if we were going to see that Renekton again just to make Necro's life easier. But the Darius is something which eventually you can leave in a 1v1 or a 1vx scenario. You don't need to gank a fed Darius because he does all his own stunts. He is, he's the Jackie Chan of top laners at that point. He doesn't need a stunt double. He does all of his own legwork once he is ahead in that matchup. Question is, can you do that early enough into the game? Because you are against the Nudie. You do only have that Sejuani on your side. You have an auto-attack reset on your W. Yes, that's nice. It stacks up that E very quickly, the permafrost from the Sejuani. But it's still a little risky because Darius is not offering you anything in team fights where the Renekton at least could do that.
It's an option. I guess it's one of the cases of let's keep our options open, but if we happen to be in the same neighborhood, maybe we'll beat up, do some auto-attacking resets, get some CC down, and make Amorodo feel even worse than he did last game. But Now, the question for you here is, Barrage, you're not going to do the lane swap again. Please don't Australia lanes with Darius. I don't think you'll have a good time.
No.
It wasn't a
won't
question.
happen.
It was just a statement more than anything.
Yep.
But maybe don't do it.
Just that, I'm like, I don't need to follow that up. He's got it in one. Good job there by Prune. I mean, the question is then, are you going to do something similar from London because they have the blue side Scion? So is that a case of now maybe you do that from the side of London? Have they practiced that? Or are they just going to say, nah, screw it, we're good in lane. Gregors and Nibble, obviously one of the more lane dominant 2v2s in this tournament too, even managing to stay even and beat out the likes of Teen and Yanako on that Demise roster. From their semi-finals. So maybe they just want to take those true lanes, make sure they have themselves that true test of skill, and come out ahead from their own mechanical play.
And I mean, that is always something nice to see. It's good to see the opportunity to play different kind of styles. You've got that Australia lens, let's go top, let's show that we can play to the more niche coaching styles. I know Barrage has been working with some very, very high-level coaching people so far this tournament just to get them. Well, I wasn't going to say anything, but if you want to do yourself like that, it's fine. I'm not going to defend you. You can just sit there.
So I'm offering my coaching styles. It is Picari, and that's about it. Good job. You won the game.
I did that. I said just pick Braum and win the game, and a lot of people got very upset with me on Twitter. So it was, maybe don't hire me as your coach, but with this game, Mr. Nightmare, I'm looking at these two team compositions.
Yes, Mr. Viperine.
What are we expecting to see from them?
What do we expect to see from both of them? So, at least in this game, Barrage have ways to really punish bad approaches to objectives. Because if you have Sejuani or TF or Rel, most people hang around out of Fog of War, there's a lot of good follow-up. You've got Destiny Gate, you've got Sejuani coming in with Qs, and obviously Rel has a pretty ridiculous engaged range too. So if London, much like Barrage in that last game, or actually it would be more appropriate to say the London Demise semi-final, where Demise had the poke comp in game one of that series. If you flub the approach and you get caught by one of these CC, expect to lose someone pretty quickly. So for me, a lot of this game from Barrage is going to be about punishing the missteps of London and being very ruthless about that. From the side of London, it's about making sure you have that vision control and the wave control, which again comes from that early lane presence, which Crisis has been so good at playing around. So it fits into their style to make sure Barrage don't have that free shooting gallery coming up to these objectives where they can pile onto the first target.
And I mean, we said this last game, you mentioned yourself, Nibble is so good at controlling vision. Is one of the strongest supports in this tournament, certainly, for being able to do that. One of the best players in the university scene, for being able to not only just get vision down.
Current Newell champion.
Yeah, current university champion, knows exactly what's going on, and is really good at controlling not only his team's vision, but the opposing team's vision. Fresh can get around the map a little bit. With Jinx being alone, maybe you don't want to leave Gregors to his own devices too much in the early phases, but it's going to be... I don't see this London esports team, if they play like they did last game, giving too many openings for Barrage, so Barrage are definitely going to have to shoot their shot as soon as they can see it.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean, as you're saying, Nibble is a current university champion, and it won the Newell in the spring split alongside Bristol Whipped. Gregors, his lane partner, is kind of like their long-lived rivals in Cabbage Family's AD carry. I mean, Bristol Whipped and Cabbage Family have been playing against each other for so many years at this point. It's great to see them on the same team and to do so well in lane and kind of evolve their playstyle together. In fact, actually, both of their teams will be playing off against each other for another tournament's last chance qualifier. So they've got an increased history with them too, but for now they do get to join forces all anime style, and they've been doing a hell of a good job of it. While Gregors has been very good at peeling for themselves and doing all their own stunts in the backline, Nibble has been, again, as you're saying, doing a lot of things which are a bit more intangible, because you just look at the minimap and you go, huh, that's a lot of vision for London. That's maybe not the vision that Barrage won. And you realize that's probably Nibble and Crisis controlling a lot of that themselves. I really want to see more of that this game, because again, it becomes doubly important when you are against this kind of heavy CC pick composition from Barrage.
And we'll have to see if Barrage can execute it a little bit earlier than they did last time around, because we mentioned they were able to execute on their team comp's win condition on a couple of occasions and did it pretty well. It was just a case of they didn't get into a position where executing on their team composition would win them the game. And if they want this series to go to a third game, they do need to win this one. Barrage on the red side, coming up against London Esports on the blue. London one win in their pocket already, and it's a best of 3 final.
It is 5-man stack in the bottom side. Gregors, you'd best not stop in that tri-brush. He doesn't. This means that if Barrage come up, they will be seen. He's seen now.
Well, Greg is going to be on the move, running as fast as he can. Going to be able to flash away with the lantern leveled by Nibble. Gets himself out of dodge, flash for flash, exchanged by these two teams.
It is. It's also a lantern start from Nibble, which means none of that level 1 hook or flay shenanigans coming in from London's bot lane. That can be a problem because now you don't have a way to cancel the level 1 crash down from Easy Game GG, which means that you're going to be forced off the wave until that level 2 mark when you can level up something which can cancel that engage from the Rel. Barrage get themselves something for the level 1. It's not much, but it's honest work.
It's an exchange. It's not really a gaining too much because
I tried to say that with a straight face.
I think you did quite well. I tried to pick it up and allow you the opportunity to. I didn't want to let it sink in. I wanted the audience to be like, there was a joke made there, but as long as we don't acknowledge it, maybe they won't do it again. is the mood. But this time around, we're going to see much more standard starts. Yes, that both junglers are on the top side, but at least they're in their own jungles, and it looks like everyone is in the correct lane from the first minute. So congratulations to both of these teams.
Things were right in the world. This one sparks joy. Rice is going to be clearing through the top side of the map as a sweet summer day. I actually wonder if this is a response from the side of London to that level 1 and saying, alright, okay, no flash on our AD carry. There's definitely the chance for that to go awry in that bot side as soon as some higher levels are hit. Of course, it looks like it, right, well, I mean, as expected, Udid does have a faster clear time than someone like the Sidronium, so we'll have first crack of that bot lane scuttle or an approach towards that bot lane.
You've got to keep an eye on these two jungles if they do decide to scrap over the scuttles, because Udyr, we see a lot, can do a lot of damage and has a really great time, but a little bit of support for the Sejuani. Yes, maybe doesn't do as much damage, but has a lot of CC and survivability to try and keep themselves alive for the response. So if priority is given over to either bot lane for Barrage or mid lane, they'll maybe be able to get some good work going on, but we'll have to think about that for a couple of minutes, as in topside, Amwodo probably very, very happy it's just Joe Drop here right now.
Yeah, but I suppose Admodo also has to deal with the Darius alone in lane. It's not got the Ghost, it's not got something like a Phase Rush, so you're not going to get run down in the long lane quite as efficiently as you would do with other builds. Killy now looking for an approach. Doesn't land stun though. As I said, when you get the Proto Belt on Echo, which is often what you build in this champion, I know that Night Harvester is a build here too. With that item, you do get the ability to get that extra mini dash and the move speed afterwards to close the distance with that W. Makes it much more threatening than it was in previous seasons. It doesn't have it right now.
You can see Sweet Summer Day is moving on towards this Udyr, chasing him off the skull. Nice stun. The Arctic Assault does not land, and Echo just going to be making sure that no one's too convinced by following through. Necro will storm back to lane, but the rest of the team just going to be happy trading out the Scuttle Crabs. Crisis on the top side, and Sweet Summer Day on the bot side.
And well played by Barrage's bot lane to get themselves the lane priority for the Scuttle. That is what you really want early lane priority for. Which meant that Easy Game GG could make their way up to that play. It's still going to be a Scuttle trade. It's not going to be anything really forced. You do get the Ghost out of Crisis. Ghost is a much lower cooldown, though, than something like the Flash, so it's not really that much of a loss for the side of London. We have ourselves even jungle matchups. Sidroni staying okay and clear in the early game. It's important for that champion. Most of the time it is about surviving for Sidroni and Bristle. And they're okay with the situation for now.
Much quieter early game so far. People a little bit less interested in scrapping. Jojo trying to make me eat my words by stacking up onto Admiral Odo. Actually losing the exchange for now, but a nice big heal coming off the Q. Admiral Odo going to flash away, but he is hemorrhaging blood at an alarming rate. Will be able to survive for now on top of Vision. Does need to be careful, but it was close to being a 1v1 kill in the top side.
Yeah, at the first part of that, I was like, oh, heck, that's a lot of minion damage. Then I realized it's Darius. If he gets another Q, much like your Silas, he does heal just absurd amounts. Darius, of course, with his Q heals off of missing HP, which means that if he does take those very close trades, he gets a lot of it back in return. Killy now going to go for that reset. Potential for a gank onto Necro. See if that teleport's going to come in. I think they're not calling for it now.
Oh, nice apprehend coming in onto Amwodo, but it's pretty close to his tower, which means the Sweet Someday will be able to get the CC, but it would have to be a dive if they want anything further, and it doesn't look like they're going to, so Amwodo lives to fight another day.
And while that was happening, as soon as that play happened top, Killy ended up channeling the teleport into the mid lane. It must have been about half a second to a second before the play erupted in top. Flash burn for the Darius, doesn't get anything for it. However, in the mid lane, Killy with his reset and Crisis, who was channeling that recall, do manage to force out the flash and then the subsequent reset teleport for Necro, who looks like they're building towards themselves as Shurelias on this TF for the extra move speed for those gold cards.
Yeah, going to be able to grab the gold cards, but won't be able to pile on through with the Everfrost if that's the direction that they decide to go in. So, definitely something a little bit different, not unheard of from Twisted Fate players.
Yeah, I
but
saw Caps play it a couple of times in the LEC, for instance.
yeah, exactly. But I mean, I like the Everfrost. I like being able to see how much they can do. And I mean, we saw Killy do so much work with that item last game on the Syndra. Could have been nice to see if Necro can do just as much. But with that Shurelya's, as you say, he's going to be going fast.
And not just him, because it empowers your team too. That empowers your Darius, and anything which enables Darius is pretty scary. Killy now going to have to eat out, get stunned, but does have the W.
Yeah, will be able to give himself that shield and slow the Sejuani, who came on through to try and follow up. Crisis is there, and it looks like Sejuani riding on top of that. Poro does need to be a little bit careful. There's a fight brewing up in that top side. You've got to imagine a lot of people hanging around, but just in the bot lane, chill out farming for now. Neither team particularly interested in going for those hard engages. EaseGame, GG, and Nibble, both playing the more disengaged style, at least for now, it would appear.
For now. So, all is quiet, not on the Western Front, but in Summoner's Rift instead. Sweet Summer Day. Whoa, okay, does have a TF ult to go towards Crisis.
Crisis needs to be careful. He's only level 5. A lot of damage coming through onto the Udyr. Jojo is there, but will be knocked up before he can take that blast gun. Will be able to get it eventually and apprehends the Sion back into his team, back into the fight, and Sion will go down. He's dunked by Jojo. Gets back up and looking for the damage, and he's going to be able to punch Jojo down. Getting the revenge. Flash from Sejuani might see her out. A lot of damage coming through, but it's just going to be the Sion clone that is killed. Necro getting the damage down, but Sweet Summer Day going low. Going to be removed as Necro looking for that gold card. Can he land it? Yes, he can, but there's 2 enemies and only 1 card. He's taking a decent amount of damage. Killy jumps back in time on top of the Twisted Fate, and he is fated to die. Crisis picking up that one.
It's all in the cards, but sadly that death card of the Tower Variety is for none other than Necro himself. Goes down in the 2v2, and the 2v2 in bot lane.
Bot lane wants to kick off as well. Chipmunk needs one more auto attack. Won't be able to fight it. Turn his attention onto Nibble. Greg is throwing a zap in their general direction, but can't do more than that, being so low and being level 5. Both Summoner's Blood, but Gregors does survive for now.
Cleanses away the Ignite. That's the only thing which helps Gregor survive. EasyGame GG did have the flash, could have gone for the mount up flip over the shoulder. Doesn't land it this time though, chooses not to dive the tower. Gregors, Nibble, Chipmunk, EasyGame GG going down to the wire.
And fighting all over the map. It was quiet for a moment. But, you know, both of these teams want to show exactly what they can do. Let's take stock.
And they should.
Yeah, that's the exact point of this tournament. Let's take stock of exactly where this leaves us, Nightmare, because kills on the top side of the map going over to London. But Jojo picks himself one up as well.
Does. So, I mean, kills and Darius, always terrifying. Never want to give gold over to that carry, which is all about the 1v1 lead, which then bleeds out all the priority you'll ever want around that champion for the enemy team, because you just can't walk up to him, particularly if you are melees. Udyr is going to struggle versus the Darius. The entire top side is, but you are going to still have a tough time translating that to a team fight lead. Sweet Summer Day being chunked out by the Echo, and does have a Sion encroaching on their position too, which means this Herald Star is going to be stopped.
Yeah, it was the Arctic retreat over the wall, and Sejuani manages to make the move away. Killy happy to have just stopped that objective in its tracks, as things will return to the standard lane state. But again, both these teams showing a lot of different play from what we saw last time around. And again, it's not a case of either team being particularly bad, in a sense, but just players taking their opportunities where they can find them.
Absolutely, just being opportunistic, and we saw that again with this Rel and this Kai'Sa. Barrage trying to do it on the other side of things. Question is, what do these opportunities actually lead towards? Is it leading towards a neutral objective? That's kind of the next stage of competitive play. EasyGame GG. Not going to get flayed aside by Nibble. Does backstep that just out of range from the Thresh. The Dragon coming up in a minute means that bot lane priority seems to be the name of the game.
Sweet Summer Day hanging around, a player that maybe we want to see a little bit more from in this series so far.
Careful.
We'll be looking to get it going with Necro getting that gold card. Only going to be onto Nibble on the Fresh, but he's going to take an ult to the face, a damage to the mouth, and Sweet Summer Day picks up the kill as if in response to my earlier comment.
Bit of a punch in the teeth that one takes. 2 ults from the mid and the jungle, which means that there will be no Destiny Gate available for this Dragon. And actually, Nibble's going to be respawned, which means that you're probably giving over well, either the choice of Herald or the Dragon towards the side of London. Jojo walking up towards this Herald, this Scuttle Crab take, not able to duke it out with the Udyr for now, though, and Crisis takes this opportunity to go towards the Herald. It's still pre-14, still has turret plates. I think they're happy with this.
Yeah, still going to be a very, very nice objective to pick up, and trading it over for the Cloud Dragon is nice, but Killy maybe hanging around saying, hold up, maybe we don't have to give this one away for free, but it seems like Echo is the only one on that page right now, so we'll be backing away and trading up 1-for-1, one thrown Q. Will it be enough? No, it won't. This one comes through from Sweet Summer Day, and it was a long shot from Killy, but I always get concerned when I see skill shots going over towards a low gun.
I was worried more about a kill onto Sejuani, because that's only 2/3 HP, and yes, you have an aftershock in your passive, still quite dangerous. Nibble carried back out of position.
Definitely in danger, gonna go down on top of the Chompers. Yes, they're from his team, but they're not gonna save him this time.
No escaping this time. Nibble has no flash, no hope in hell of getting out of that one. Steps up a little too far, but he doesn't have an Echo ultimate. Can't stop time or rewind it in any kind of form. Goes down for their second death of the game. Bit of a freebie, that one.
It's a little one. It's a kill onto the support. It's not going to be the end of the world for London, but we said the Barrage need to be able to quickly capitalize on mispositioning from their opponents and proving they can do it there.
Oh, Necro's down on bot side, got the Shurelya's.
Oh, Greg is going to be the one stunned up. The Lantern comes down. He's going to be able to dive towards the wall, but good engage coming through from Easy Game GG, making it look so easy, but the team fight's turned around. It's a 1-for-1 trade in the end, but Nibble just keeps people under tower. Sweet Summer Day takes the brunt of it. And a lot of gold going to be fed over to Killy in the mid side. Disastrous play in the end for Barrage.
So you do get a kill into Gregors. You're going to deny waves to tower, but you are losing the entirety of your mid lane outer turret. 5 plates down. Killy and Crisis taking away that gold. You do put behind Gregors and you take away both of his defensive summoners. That is definitely worth quite a lot. But trading 1-for-1 and with a global composition, losing your mid lane out of turret is such a turning point, a fulcrum within this game. Because now Necro is going to struggle really to start playing around, pushing out, roaming, and using that ult effect as effectively as he did before.
Twist Fate no longer has a safe haven in that mid lane, and you need that to be able to springboard into the other lanes most effectively. So it's going to be a sad time watching that one go down if you are a Barrage fan, but they did get the kill into the bot side onto Gregors, and keeping this Jinx down, we saw last game, if you kind of just leave him to his own devices, Gregors can completely take over late game.
TFL going bot lane.
Looking for it. Can he grab anything? He can grab the gold card on it to Killy, but he's going to get dove on himself. You can see Ease Game GG is there. Managed to get the knockup. Amwoda teleporting in. Sweet Summer Day rolling on by, trying to apply the damage to the team. But Killy is going to be able to dive away for a second. Dodges out from the ultimate. Sweet Summer Day, it just goes wide as by Chipmunk on the side doing so much work. Gets caught up on the edge, but the Death Sentence will not find him. Amwoda is searching. He's looking for Sweet Summer Day. Is doing all he can to keep his damage alive. Nibble has found his way through, but Amwoda will be taken low, but now he's mad, and he's going to be able to get the punch down. Double kill going over Sejuani by Chipmunk, is being chased down by a quick San and an excited Jinx. Does he have the damage? I'm not sure. Greg has one more shot. The hail of bullets comes through for the double kill, and they pick up the team fight win just about. But goodness me, was it close.
It was close. A lot of time was kind of taken away from Barrage and just wrenched back into London's favour by Killy playing around his W shield and the ultimate too. That allowed Killy to get that backup from Nibble and from Admordo's teleport too. And then, of course, eventually Gregor's coming in at the back end of it. Didn't need to use that in the Super Mega Death rocket because it was already on cooldown, of course. Turn it around. I think that ended up being, what, a 3-for-2 overall?
4-for-3? Maybe? Everyone was getting involved. It was absolutely mad. Production.
It was
Bring up the
a
stats.
little crazy.
But it's again, the positioning from both these marksmen by Chipmunk impressing me in that fight more than anything.
Absolutely.
Showing that he can, yes, he got caught out on the very edge of that knockup from the Scion, but dodging out just dodging out everything. The Sejuani ultimate going wide for his team wasn't optimal by any stretch of the imagination, but kept himself away from all of Nibble's CC, jumping away from Killy on multiple occasions. Echo is really good at sticking onto people, so massive shout out to by Chipmunk in that last exchange.
Yeah, and Killy, again, with another actually very high impact game in this early game. Not necessarily from the kills that they were getting in that last game, more about the disengaged plays, but Killy is just playing around the edges of what he's being given. You would expect with that kind of collapse, Echo would be dead very, very quickly. He survives for long enough for that to not just be a done deal at that point and win things back in his team's favor. Got a dragon spawning in a minute. This is a mountain rift, much like the last game. And Mawodo roaming down towards this mid lane as well. But again, because that mid lane outer turret is now down for Barrage, it just necessitates one of these players, one or more even, from this Barrage lineup to be there to wave clear at all times. You can't just allow it to go past your tower because that's a lot of information given over to London if that does happen.
And giving a lot of priority in a lane for either of these teams. Yes, grabbing that dragon is nice. It's third dragon, so it is a massive focal point in terms of the power level of these two teams. But grabbing a tower in either of the side lanes could be just as good, because a little bit of armor, sure, you feel pretty good about it, but it's not going to be the massive, oh lord, this is Soul Drake, we need to fight for this. And as it spawns up, it is on the blue side, it is London who control the river at the moment. Barrage need to be careful not to be hit by too much as they dive on forward, but looking to just control the mid lane at the moment.
And so things we need to look out for within this push and pull, this tug of war. Flash on Rel, Shirelia's on the TF. Jojo going in.
Jojo going in. They're going to be following up with all the damage. But Chipmunk is diving all the way through the fight. And it's getting so much damage onto the back line. But in the front, it's all about London. They're ripping through. Sweet Summer Day still standing for a second longer. The fight ripped up by a blast cone, by a Chipmunk. Nowhere to be seen. But Necro has been spotted out. Yes, Nibble goes down. But Killy's going to come through. He's not even really needed. Double kill goes over to the Udyr, and it's a clean-up job for Mawodo. He's found Bio Chipmunk, holds him in place, grabs the ace, and moves towards the dragon.
Turns out you do need to kill more than just the Jinx. The arrayed team comp of London comes out with a win after a very slick kill onto the bot laner of this London team. Easy game GG on the Rel. Find their target, does have the flash engage. It's just not enough at this point. As soon as everyone is into the fray from the Barrage team, they get snarled up by the Udyr with the Phoenix stance, the Scion with all of their AoE damage, and of course, Killy on the Echo being that remaining damage threat. They just cannot stand and fight even after the primary damage source is dealt with.
Back and forth, back and forth. All of these fights are looking so good, and gotta shout out the Sejuani in that one. Sweet Summer Day able to stay alive for so much longer than I would expect them to in the backside when so much of the damage of the rest of the team, you've got Jojo, you've got Bar Chipmunk, Ease Game GG, all diving away, but Sejuani eating so much. At the end of the game, it wasn't that important because everyone did go down. They lost out on not only the Dragon, but it looks like they'll be losing out on the Rift Herald as well. But being able to soak up so much damage could be good if Barrage can find their way back into this game.
It could be, but then of course having this Herald allows for a multi-tower push potentially from the side of London. So Necro taking a lot of damage and having the flash forced away from them. Killy now diving onto Jojo.
Jojo going to be taken out very, very easily. Sweet Summer Day has nothing to say about that one. And they're going to be able to drop the Rift Herald in the top side, looking to take down these bricks, as you say. Open up the map a little bit more, and with Baron going to be arriving in a couple of minutes, taking away another tower on that side of the Rift, is going to be exceptionally nice.
But it will. Of course, top lane is the least valuable lane to have towers in for the side of that Baron, because if you have someone on that side of the map, at least they don't have to teleport to that objective. Getting top lane priority and hemming them back to their base, that's a different thing altogether. You take that top lane in a turret and suddenly someone has to be at the inhibitor, that's a bit more awkward. However, Barrage do manage to keep their inner turret standing, even though you did have this very heavy auto-attack tower damage duo of the Udyr and the Echo. You'll notice that's a Sheen in the Udyr's inventory. That will be going towards a Lichbane. I know it's very golden efficient, but it's something which Crisis does, and move speed is something which, again, we saw the Demise video on Twitter. I mean, it is kind of running in the 90s style of Udyr, where you just go very, very fast.
I mean, Crisis wants to be able to run it down, whether that be one way or the other. He's going to be doing it very quickly, and from what we've seen this series, it's definitely been in the positive sense of the phrase, but there's still time for Barrage to come back into this one. There are still tools that they can use, but again, it's looking like the game is starting to get away from them just a little bit.
More than just a little bit. 5k against this team is kind of rough. You don't have the individual lead on this Darius, who is not this overwhelming presence in a side lane, which Jojo actually has been kind of used to being in a lot of these games. Yes, in the first game between these two teams, we saw the Quinn game, and it wasn't quite what they wanted in the mid game. The early game it was, absolutely. Playing that AD carry into the Nard did very well for this team of Barrage. Killy, like ships in the night, except some of them are more like U-boats trying to capsize this Echo.
Oh, in the wrong neighborhood right now. Sweet Summer Day, Necro, and Jojo all there. Killy gonna dive back into the fight and flash away from the Apprehend, looking to escape. Will be helped by the ultimate. The short-range teleport does mean that he might go down, but he's picked up one. There's no Jojo left in this one, and Killy breaking ankles, exposing members left, right, and center. Picks up another one. The CC is there. Can he survive? No, he can't. The shield doesn't come through in time, but Killy gets the 2 for 1, and that's not how that's meant to go.
This guy is cracked. I want whatever steroids this guy's Echo is on. That is huge amounts of damage. Takes a 1v3 double kill. Nash's Tooth on Echo certainly packs a punch. It's way more gold efficient than something like a Lichbane because of the amount of nerfs that item has had. Nash's Tooth, though, on anyone that can stick to targets just does so much work, and it does it all in that bot lane play.
And I mean, it wasn't even just the damage that Echo was doing, it was the lack of damage that Killy was taking, diving around, dodging out abilities, and even when he was hit, Echo being deceptively tanky with that Nash's Tooth as well. Killy definitely wanting to be the star man of this game, showing that he can do exactly what the rest of his team has been doing, and a lot of casters have been shouting about the rest of this roster, but Killy definitely wanting to be in focus this time around.
Well, I know coming into this tournament, I had a lot of opinions on most of the team of this London roster. Admirado, I've cast them a couple of times before, been impressed. This bot lane, of course, made several finals of the university scene. Very much players to keep your eyes on. This mid-jungle, though, I had personally less experience with. But after this tournament, I will definitely be remembering these names, and particularly Killy in this final, after having a quieter tournament, comes in and absolutely slaps some fools.
So they're going to be diving away from the potential engage, just going to be using that Destiny Gate to get out of harm's way. But a fight could be kicking off, and it's going to Barrage him up on the side so much easy. Hayes coming down, Greg is going solo and will be deleted. Gets the shield, stands for much longer than he said, but Jojo gets the knockdown and will be able to pick up the kill, catching of the day onto Easy GG. By Chipmunk is still firing with impunity, and Wodo full health. Members are falling. Sweet Summer Day again survives so long, but is the last bastion standing. By Chipmunk has nowhere to go, looking for the blast going, but gets knocked out of the air. Ace for Killy on the side. They pick up Dragon, and again, it's London Esports.
The collapse is just too much to take for Barrage. It is irresistibly good from London. They managed to just survive those extra couple of seconds in each of those situations with the gold lead that they have and the outplays that they're going across as well. Admirado at the end of it has zero threat onto himself as well, so he has this, you know, this frontline advantage, the scaling advantage that the Scion often has over other top laners trying to be in the front line. It means that even if you do end that fight, we saw what happened in the first Dragon fight. Even Bio Chipmunk doesn't want to be in the face of this rampant undead Juggernaut.
And you see Baron in pocket for Dragon in pocket. Soul is available in 4.5 minutes if London Esports take that long to win out in this game. And yes, it's definitely early, but they've got themselves a very, very healthy gold lead. And again, Barrage not playing terribly, but just can't find a way into these games. Going to be caught out once again. This time it's Easy Game, and he's going down so easily. Goes particularly low, and it's a zap for the slow. One more auto for the kill. Is the whip from Nibble. A Sweet Summer Day chased on. The gold card will be dodged out by the ultimate from Admirado. The Arctic Assault once again used in retreat. Flash over with the flay, with the zap, with the damage. Sajuani stumbling out of this team fight, goes low, but does manage to stay alive. But it's just so difficult for Barrage to weather the storm right now. It looks like they wanted to take the fight near to their towers. Next gets the stun down, but all of this is just being funneled onto Hassan. He is taken down. The shutdown goes over to Jojo, but he might have found himself caught out. Hassan's going to get the punches down. The zap gets the slow, but the Sterax is popped. Gregors needs to be a little bit careful about overextending, marauding forward as he is, but they turn their attention towards the mid lane tower.
Okay, so when London has the Baron buff, they overextend, maybe going for a bit of a victory lap, a couple of those montage plays. Nibble flashes over the wall to see if they can follow up. Now Gregors is out of sorts.
Teleport coming on through, and Gregors has been caught out. The CC and the damage is there, and Bio Chipmunk picks up the kill. Killy gonna be stunned up, but I've called this man dead so many times, but he just hasn't been, and he's rolling towards the bot lane. This time there are 4 members going after this Echo. Can he break more legs? He's gonna go into statue form as Jojo dives on in, but this time there's no escape as Twisted Fate seals his fate in death.
I have them now. Finally, these two carries go down at the same time. The Echo and the Jinx not able to outplay that situation. And Barrage, they clinically punished London after the Sun goes a bit too far forward. You can't do that alone versus a Darius. Maybe against other teams you could. Not when you have this continual anti-tank damage if you are stuck there for a long enough period of time. Then the retreat is a little bit scuffed up from London. The Lantern cancelled by Easy Game GG's knockup. Times that perfectly so Gragas could not get out themselves. However, it is just a bit of a feel-good moment. It buys them a brief moment of respite, a brief reprieve. Is it enough to get themselves well and truly into this game? That's yet to be seen.
There are lots of questions still to be answered in this game, but the one thing is for certain, 6k in the lead for London Esports on the goal graph at the 26-minute mark, and they've already got themselves a win on the cards. One more in this game would set them up for the championship and would send them very happily towards the end of this off-season. But Barrage not giving up at all, standing strong, looking for positive team fights, and they've been able to do it on a couple of occasions already this series, but they just need that one, which is a decisive victory, to prove that they have what it takes.
Yeah. And what is helping them a lot in this regard is the fact that actually BioChipmunk has a heck of a lot of farm. You can see that currently Crisis has actually had a lot of resources fueled into that Udyr, and that certainly helps. You can start running down and doing significant damage to someone like the Kaiser, who's not the best against tanks. Does have, of course, the Lord Dominic's regards now, though, because of the extra gold funneled into them, and they are actually a little further ahead than this Jinx. Because of that 50 CS lead. Crisis now going to catch out Sweet Summer Day, recalling just about. Does manage to Arctic Assault away. Now we're left again, a little bit of a quieter phase of play, waiting for these next objectives to spawn. There's a Dragon Soul on the table, there's a Baron on the table.
And both of them are going to be London Esports favoured, you've got to imagine, but Barrage cannot give them away. Losing out on Baron and giving that shield over would be disastrous for the boys in red this game, and for London Esports, it'll be more than enough, you'd think, to get them through to the end of this series. And they're going to be moving towards this dragon. You see teleport coming on through from Twisted Fate, looking for an engage. We'll be able to get the stun down. Again, it's just onto Nimble, not the priority target, but they'll take what they can get, and they will be able to take it as the kill goes over to Necro. Going to be stunning up on to the Scion, and teleport coming on through. Jojo wants to get involved, but the fight is going to continue up behind the Dragon Pit, jumping away from Killy. Again, he's causing so many members to spend so much time on him, going golden, but Jojo in the backline is just going to be stunned up and taken out. Easy Game GG will be able to stumble away on a sliver of health. Sweet Summer Day is not so lucky, and he's going to be able to drag the rest of his team into the meat grind as well. Double kill goes over to the Udyr. The ace goes over to London Esports, and they're going to look to force on through and try and crack the base.
Really clean team fight from London after Nibble is the primary target of that pick. Crisis runs through the fight, and Gragas stays alive too. BioChipmunk is trying his damned hardest to try and get assassinations onto both of these carries. It hasn't happened though, and London steamroll towards the base.
San is going to be able to tank up these towers. So much health, so much tankiness. Death timers still rolling for Barrage students, and they're not going to be able to respawn in time. The freeze frame shows it's over, and it's London Esports students who pick themselves up the first student proving ground title.
Put it in that old sepia tone filter. Put that one in your old photo frames. That's one which the London team will want to remember. A clean final series. Did end up... Remember, this is a team which lost their very first game in the group stage. After then, they did not drop a single other game. A perfect run, as long as you discount that very first game.
I mean, it's important because I said when we were doing our pre-game prep on stream that no team was going to go undefeated, and they were like, yeah, that's fair. We should probably get rid of our first game, you know, just get a little L before we steamroll the rest of the tournament. And that is exactly what the London Esports have been able to do. And dominance. Every single member of that team showed so much promise in that final series. It's exactly what we wanted from a final, because there were players that we knew were really good. Crisis has been a focal point for a lot of people, saying this dude is going somewhere this in the coming up season. You've got the likes of Gregus that everyone's like, yeah, amazing player doing so much work. But even players like Killy, who going into this tournament and going even into the final, where people were maybe a little bit more muted on. Yeah, that Echo bot play.
Huge. Yeah. And I think this has been a really good series for a lot of the London team, because As you're saying, yeah, I mean, Gregors is a player that's been in that UKLC promotion tournament, did really well during it too. In that first 3-0 series over, over it would have been the one over Demise actually, so the second series, he was one of the main carries of that team, even though Killican did pop off there. So these players have had a couple of them, at least, have had some really strong performances in some other tournaments. This one in particular, though, showing that this team can come together on short notice and do some really good stuff, has been very effective and very pleasant to see.
It's been amazing to see, and I think that all of these players should be very, very proud of what they've achieved here, even in cases where maybe they didn't have the best series overall in this finals. It's a difficult way to come onto stream and play so many games in quite a short length of time. All of these players coming in at 7-8 games throughout this entire tournament, and having that consistency can be difficult. So there were times when every single one of these players stood out and had a good moment or a good play, and in a competitive team environment, when you're playing together for a longer period of time, we've seen in the university scene what all of these players can do. So putting them into a team in something like the UKEL, massively sure that they could all thrive there.
And I think the thing for me is that, well, for me, who's hopefully going to be involved in the student scene a bit further as well, a lot of these players, well, we'll see what happens, right? But I'm really hoping that some of these players will then step up to fulfill that kind of mantle and fill those shoes of the outgoing teams. You know, a lot of Bristol Whip, current spring champions, that a lot of them are graduating. Same with Cabbage Family. Most of their team is leaving too. I believe Smee is the only member who's going to be continuing on in there. There are definitely some big shoes to fill, as the way always is with university competitions. Some of those future champions could really be in these games. They had the mettle and the motivation to turn up to this tournament to strut their stuff, and that goes a long way in this kind of scene.
And that's the kind of joyous thing and kind of the double-edged sword of the university scene, right? You've got these players who are so dominant, have such a good time, and it's like, wow, this player is developing so amazingly well. But then they graduate, so they're not allowed to play in it anymore. And having something like the UKL, having this proving ground to showcase players on their way out, does mean that there is promise, because there is now somewhere else for them to go and ply their trade and develop as individual players and as members of teams. And of course, it does mean that we get the exciting situation of new teams coming through, new universities grabbing these kind of crazy, amazing teams and coming to the forefront. Yeah, exactly. It's a case of there hasn't been one university that has dominated esports the entire of the existence of stuff like the Newell. It just hasn't happened, because you've got universities who dominate for a couple of seasons and then kind of fall off. Birmingham. You've got teams that do really well pretty consistently throughout. You've got your Warwicks and your Exeters, but you talked about it. It's Kent and Bristol at the moment who are vying at the top.
Absolutely, and that's why it's great to see teams from the UKLC, and then of course those in the UKL as well, kind of look over to that existing structure and say, all right, okay, you know, we do our own scouting, we do our own outreach as well, but why don't we use the NSC and the Newell powerhouses of kind of containing and bringing together and advertising esports to these players to greater advantage and to greater ends? I'm very happy to see that it's worked out in this way. I think this has been a very successful tournament. Can't wait to hear what the players have thought about it post-tournament.
Well, if we want to hear about what the players are going to be talking about right now, Nymera, I'm going to have to get rid of you for the while, but thank you so much for joining me, and we're going to be joined by an exceptionally talented player in their own right. It's Crisis, coming off the back of that victory 2-0, going to be chatting with me through this interview. I think we're going to be able to see him on screen. Just going to wait for production to get rid of Nymera. Want him gone. Get rid. Let's go. No? You going to chill? You know, Nymera, how do you feel about, Nymera, that performance today?
You know, I know as soon as I start speaking, I'm going to get cut off. So you know what? I'm just going to wait until the transition happens, and I'm going to be very annoyed about it.
I'm going to have to leave, apparently. So, Nymera, it's been real. I'm going to jump into the other call. So, there we go. There's the man of the moment, Crisis. Massive congratulations on that 2-0 sweep and a very, very dominant performance in the entire tournament. How are you feeling off the back of those games?
I'm feeling very gassed. That was a lot of fun, and I love my team. That was really well played.
It was exceptionally well played throughout the entire tournament, but we're going to laser in on this final. So first game, that Lee Sin performance. What was the plan? What were the comms like when you were just going from lane to lane, just killing as you wanted?
I mean, my team was just hyping me up the whole time, and I was trying my best to stay calm and stay focused because I knew the game wasn't done. But, I had to bring out the Lee Sin. I really did, because, I need to show everyone what I got.
Exactly, and it wasn't something that we'd seen from you in this tournament. Yet we know that you're a very, very good player on that champ, and you just had to showcase it in front of everyone at home. And I mean, were you upset when Nibble grabbed those couple of kills and stopped your 100% KP?
I mean, Nibble needs to just relax because he's clearly too much of a 1v9 support player. I mean, I needed that 1%, 100% KP.
You you needed it, but apparently the Alistair just wanted a couple of those solo kills yourself. I'm being like blinded by light apparently, which happens in interviews for some reason. But let's talk about the second game, because you were coming off the back of such a dominant performance. How did you kind of ground yourself and get yourselves back into kind of the mindset to dominate? Because the early game in the second game was much more muted and much more methodical, it seemed.
Yeah, because we saw in their comp it was very strong dive comp, and we needed to protect our Jinx and make her the carrier. But once we realized that they were trying really hard to focus on dragons, we thought, what can we trade for this? Can we get Herald mid, break mid tower, get Echo snowballing? And as once Echo snowballing, he wins the side lane, and as you saw, he can just 1v9.
It was absolutely incredible. That 1v3 in the bot side, grabbing 2 kills and almost looking like getting out as well, was exceptionally strong. And you said that you really loved playing with this unit. What were kind of the preparations that you made as a 5 going into this tournament?
I'll be honest, we played an ARAM before every set,
very nice.
And that's about it. But, you know, because we felt after the group stages that it was we had like natural synergy, I felt, and it worked really well. So we didn't think we needed to do much. And it kind of clicked really well, that's enough, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely looked like a lot of work had gone into it from your team. And I'm being told by production that you have a little bit of an announcement for us.
Yeah, my announcement is Bucket Hat OP. No, my announcement is that I'll be joining Demise in the summer, which is pretty cool. So I'm pretty excited for that, yeah.
I mean,
yeah, you go.
Yeah, that's absolutely sensational. I mean, we were talking about wanting this tournament to be a place where up-and-coming talent could showcase themselves, and now you're going to be joining Demise, which is a roster that has been on the down last season, coming down into the UKEL from the UKLC. But, I mean, the question is, are you going to be the player to carry it back into the heights of the UK scene?
I mean, give me Udyr, give me Lee Sin, and I think it's GG. That's what I'm saying.
I mean, absolutely sensational. It's massive congratulations on the win and on that announcement. We hope to see you a lot in the UKEL next split, but I'm going to have to say goodbye to you now to bring Nymera in. Any final words you want to give to the people at home?
Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and it was so much fun playing.
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see if we can bring Nymera back into the fold. Production, do the math. Oh my word, Crisis has just lost a lot of elo, but he's over here now.
Don't stop shining the light on me, Will. I'm not here for your interrogation. That's only for Crisis.
Listen here, Crisis. Where are the good Uncle Camps buried? But I mean, we've already had our first announcement of a player jumping onto a team off the back of this tournament, and we haven't finished the broadcast yet. So I'm sure we'll be getting much more of that going forward. As soon as Crisis leaves, my camera fixes itself. So, you know, clearly the bucket hat was OP in the end. But that is exactly what we wanted to get out of this tournament for these players, and knowing that we've already had success. What is going on with you? Okay, this is the thing. We need to have a word. You and Initialize. We need to have words with you, because this Lapras nonsense needs to stop.
Nothing is the problem here, Will. I am safe, and nothing is wrong here.
The absolute state of the UK casting scene. I'll give it up. It's gone. UKEL's gone. The whole scene is
we like to have fun here. We like to have fun and be attacked by various projectiles. That one's a payback for earlier. I'll get him back for that one again. But it's great to hear that these players have managed to not just get something out of this tournament as in terms of playing experience, but also get those connections as well. Start those conversations with some of these admins and team managers and stuff like that. It's great to hear that some of these players are going to start getting picked up. Obviously, I think Crisis was incredible today. I think my series MVP has to go to Killy for the finals, because, oh my god, that Echo game was crazy.
True.
And while the Syndra was less good about the KDA in terms of the damage output and stuff like that, the disengaged plays and the micro outplays were still huge in that series. Although, shout out again, of course, to Gregors on that Jinx in both games. Phenomenal team fighter. Got to shout out some members on Barrage too. Of course, you know, I mean, I think particularly looking at how Easy Game GG was keeping them on their toes and occasionally get those huge wombos off. I think there are a lot of players with bright futures here in this UK scene.
Absolutely, and not even just from these two teams. The teams playing in the third, fourth place playoffs, of course, Resolve won that 2-0, but there were players across the entire tournament who definitely have bright futures moving forward. And I mean, a lot of this talent will be available in the university scene next split for the summer at least. So make sure to be keeping your eyes on all of the relevant social media to see what happens with all of those players and where they find themselves. Yet we've had our first announcement of a player jumping onto a new roster from the UKL, and I'm sure
congrats,
it will
Crisis.
not
You
be
deserve it.
the last. He definitely does. And I mean, again, I think there's a lot of talent here that is going to be in a similar position moving forward. But that's all we've got time for in the Student Proving Grounds. If you're jonesing for more action from the university scene, you can be watching the University Esports Masters on Saturday and Sunday. The UK team's already been knocked out, which is, you know...
There will be one back, though, at some point.
Yes, there will be more in the future, but for tomorrow, we're going to see a lot of very talented teams from the rest of Europe, and I get to be talking about that one. You've done the past couple of weekends. It's going to be myself
It's been very fun.
and the exceptionally talented Carmeline going to be joining me for 2 games of a mad number. I think it's 9 games of University Esports over the next couple of days. So make sure to be tuning in to watch that one. But from myself, Viper, from Nymera, and everyone behind the scenes here at the UKEL, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you very soon.